Now, an Afghan refugee whose portrait as a young girl became perhaps the most famous magazine cover in history. Well, she's been arrested in Pakistan. Her name is Shabat Gula. She's now in her 40s and she's been detained for having a fake identity card. Well, her picture was taken by the photographer Steve McCurry at a refugee camp in Pakistan in the 1980s. Millions of Afghans escaping war back home have been living in Pakistan, but there's been a crackdown of late on refugees who are not registered, resulting in thousands being deported. William Spindler is a spokesman with UNHCR and joins us now from Geneva. So this is a particularly poignant case, isn't it, because of the fact that this woman, as a girl, was so well known and she exemplified the suffering of the people of Afghanistan then. Do you think she does now?
I think what we have heard in the last few hours is that there might be a way to solve the issue of Mrs. Shabat Gula. Our office in Pakistan is trying to help find a solution, and we hope that this will find a way for her individual situation. But of course, you're right, she symbolizes Afghan refugees who have been living in exile for about 4 decades now because of instability and conflict in Afghanistan. And many Afghan refugees in Pakistan continue to be without documents. And this is a very difficult issue that we are trying to tackle over there. We want all those refugees who don't have documents to be able to, and who have fears to return to Afghanistan, to come forward, and we will try to help them to find a way for them to obtain documents in Pakistan.
OK, but obtaining documents or not, I mean, the Pakistani government has recently announced that it's sending many thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of Afghan refugees back to Afghanistan, to a country which is still arguably at war and which clearly has very little to offer in terms of being able to make a living.
It's very important that the international community supports the return and the voluntary return of Afghans to Pakistan, Afghans home. And so far this year, over 200,000 have gone voluntarily. And UNHCR is facilitating this process. Of course, at the same time, we have to make sure that those people who have a fear of returning to Afghanistan because of the insecurity there and the situation in some parts of the country can still have protection in Pakistan. So on one hand, we need to facilitate the return of those people who are able to return and who want to return, and the international community needs to support their reintegration in Afghanistan. Security is an issue, but also the socioeconomic integration of these returnees. But at the same time, we need to ensure that those who are still reluctant to return to Afghanistan because of fears of persecution there can still have protection in Pakistan.
And what sort of obligations would Pakistan have under international conventions?
Well, Pakistan has been a very generous host to Afghan refugees for over 4 decades. During that time, at one point, about 7 million Afghans were refugees in Pakistan and Iran. During the last 4 decades, many Afghans have returned to home, but because of insecurity, some of them have had to flee again to Pakistan. So we understand the pressures on the communities that have been hosting these refugees for many decades, communities that themselves are in a precarious situation. We also need more help for Pakistan, for the communities that are hosting refugees, because these communities cannot indefinitely continue to receive these refugees. So this is very important. We need to understand the needs of the host country and at the same time ensure that people can still benefit from international protection in Pakistan.
William Spindler of UNHCR, thank you.
My pleasure.